get it.
You got what it takes to beat the champ? Come on!
Boxing. If I can describe what boxing is in one word, it would be awesome. There's something inherently cool about the sport. Seeing two people enter the ring and slug it out with all they've got leaves me with chills. If there's any form of media that has helped me understand why boxing is cool, it's fighting games. Many of the biggest fighting game IPs have had a boxer character. The most famous fighting game series of all time has had a boxer since nearly the very beginning. Of course, I'm talking about Street Fighter's Balrog.
There's no escape!
He is the perfect representation of the hard-hitting, no-nonsense fighter. He's always had a reputation of being able to turn the tide of a match on its head in an instant. If you give Balrog an inch, he's turning it into a corner-to-corner combo that ends with you on the ground begging for mercy.
You won't hear the full 10 count! Why don't you move it?
But he's not the only boxer in the series. Dudley shows us that boxing isn't only about who can hit the hardest. He shows us that we need to remember that speed, technique, and style are key parts of the sport. It doesn't matter how hard your opponent can hit if they can't land a punch to begin with. But he knows that sometimes you do have to let loose in order to win.
Keep it classy. Rolling thunder.
It's sad that neither of them are in Street Fighter 6 and that Dudley hasn't been playable since 4, but maybe Ed can fill the boxing gloves shaped hole that Street Fighter 6 currently has. But we can fill the void with another boxer while we wait. I have played a little bit of Tekken 7 and my main was Steve Fox. Admittedly, I picked him up to begin with because I saw his sidestep moves as a way to help learn Tekken's 3D mechanics, but I found I really like how he plays. Using all of his different stance changes to mix up your offense is great, and his counter hit combos are always satisfying. Anytime I got a counter hit back to, I knew I was about to have a fun time. Also, he can Dempsey roll, which is just sick. I can't wait to play Tekken 8 and see the new options he has to make my opponents press some bad buttons.
Now this is what I call fun. That's a knockout! Good night.
My friend Muscular Alligator sent me a Steam code for Killer Instinct, and obviously I picked TJ Combo for my first game. I was just mashing buttons at first, but after a bit of time in training mode, I realized he's far more than just a hard-hitting character. He's got stance cancels, a command grab, an upper body invincible roll, and some awesome combos, pun entirely intended. He doesn't look like it at first, but he's a mix-up machine. It's so much fun trying to make my way in and then making life a living hell for whomever is in my way. Now, I can't talk about boxers and fighting games without looking at Little Mac. It's so funny seeing anthropomorphic animals, Italians, and literal gods lose to just some random guy from the Bronx. Little Mac embodies the struggles players have to face when they pick a lower tier character. Smash is all about movement and positioning, so having limited air options can be hard to deal with. But with enough hard work, perseverance, and a little bit of luck, anything is possible.
Duck this one!
Now, as much as I love how fighting games have used boxers, I think there's one specific form of media that can use boxing to its fullest. Some of my favorite anime series have been about boxing. Ashido no Joe is an all-time classic. The story of a low-life thug finding meaning in the ring and in the bonds he's made with the people he's fought is awesome. It also has a great moment where the main girl doesn't want Joe to fight in the championship bout because she loves him, even though he's been a complete asshole to her for the whole series.
Pretty girls want too much shit. This girl gonna talk about make me come. I said, where the fuck are you going? She said, eat me out. I said, I'm not hungry. She said, hurt me. I said, I'm on parole. She said, fuck me. I said, fuck you too. Then she said, tell me something dirty. I said, your kitchen, bitch.
This series has gone on to inspire a lot of people, and Megalobox was actually made for one of its anniversaries. Megalobox asks a simple question: what if boxers had robot arms? The answer is, it becomes f***ing rad. Seeing Joe climb the ranks without using gear and getting closer with people who support him is fantastic. I really do love these two series. But there's one boxing anime that stands above them all: Hajime no Ippo. Forgive me for taking so long to finally get to the main topic of this video, but here we are. We have arrived at the peak of boxing anime. It's still an ongoing manga series, and George Morikawa has produced over 1,400 chapters. If I remember correctly, it's the second longest ongoing manga of all time, and it's not just because he's beating a dead horse and trying to milk it for all it's worth. The story is fantastic. Seeing Ippo grow from a wimpy high schooler to the Japanese featherweight champion is inspiring. Ippo didn't reach these new heights alone though. He has his coach, mom, friends, and fellow gym mates cheering him on the whole time. There are two characters that I think get overlooked though, not only in the story, but in what their stories within this series represents. I actually brought them up over a year ago in my Yamcha video, for those of you that remember that one.
Flashback.
Characters are the heart and soul of fiction, and that doesn't only apply to the protagonist. Sometimes it's the side characters that end up feeling more relatable to the audience. Characters like Kazuma Kuwabara, Okuyasu Nijimura, Potato Girl, and Aoki and Kimura add heart and soul to their respective series.
End of flashback.
Aoki isn't formally introduced until chapter 6, and the first time we do see him is when he's getting completely destroyed by Miyata. His first actual appearance is in chapter 8, and we get some great exposition and world building. Aoki works at a ramen shop, and it's here where we get to see some of his most important character traits. He's a good cook and a pretty mediocre boxer, at least according to Takamura. This moment might only be a few panels long, but goes a long way in showing Aoki's cheeky attitude and shows us his overall role in the series, to be the comedic relief.
All right, I'll do my best. Excuse me, but what are you doing?
Oh, sorry about that. You just look so tense there, new face. I thought I'd give you a break and help you relax. You know, gotta break the ice, etc.
Hey man, would any normal person fall for that story?
No, but at any rate, this kid's gonna be fun to mess with.
He has a few quick appearances here and there, but in chapter 17 we finally get introduced to Kimura. It's 3 panels long, and he's only there to give some exposition for who Ippo has to fight in his debut match. This is Kimura's role occasionally. He talks about a new boxer someone has to fight and then gives exposition when it's needed. It's in this chapter where we see the two actually talk to each other for the first time in the series. Aoki and Kimura's roles in the beginning are to support Ippo and help him train and learn about his opponents. They do their best to help Ippo prepare for his fights and cheer him on when his back is against the wall. But even more importantly, they're some of Ippo's very first friends.
Hey, Ippo, we're gonna spar.
Great, thank you very much.
Watch it, your sides are wide open.
And move your head from side to side. Head! Training camp at the beach is only effective if you work hard in the morning and at night. When you play, play hard. And when you train, train hard. This is so much fun. Come to think of it, I've never gone on a beach trip with friends.
When the gang goes to a training camp in chapters 39 to 42, we get to see Kimura's style of boxing for the first time. He's an outboxer and uses his footwork to stay outside of his opponent's range.
What's up? I'm over here. Darn it. Hey, what's up? What's up, Slowpoke? You're not keeping up at all.
But it turns out that Aoki is the one we get to see fight first. Granted, it was only 4 panels and he barely won the fight, but here we get a glimpse of how he fights. He's willing to slug it out with his opponents. It takes a while before we get to see Kimura fight, and once again their fights are summed up in just a few panels. Kimura won by a close decision and Aoki won by a miracle punch that ended in a KO. The same thing happens again in their next fights, however this would change soon. Their next matches in the Class A tournament didn't go too well. Aoki was unable to stand up and lost to a 10 count, and Kimura fought hard to get a draw, but he was forced to fight an extra round for the tournament and lost to a devastating blow.
I think the match could have gone to either of them. And if the only difference was luck, why couldn't it have gone his way? He trained so hard for this.
I forget sometimes that you're not used to seeing family lose. But in the end, there can only be one winner. It doesn't matter how much you practice or burn with hope.
That boxing ring's all light and shadow, and you're either gonna win or you're gonna lose.
This isn't the first time they've lost, but just as Ippo says, it sucks seeing them work so hard just to lose in the end. Although they lost, they kept their heads up and looked forward to Ippo's upcoming match with Volkswagen.
No mercy, no remorse.
Now, it would be a while before either of them got their next match, but neither of them would have expected what the next big match would be. Kimura will have his very first junior lightweight title match with Mashiba. Kimura is ready to do whatever he can to prepare for this once-in-a-lifetime fight. Mashiba relies on a technique called the flicker jab. It has a long reach, and some fights end without Mashiba's opponents getting anywhere close to him. But before he can learn to deal with Mashiba's flicker jabs, he needs to learn something more important about himself as a boxer.
木村さんはそつなくまとまっていて悪いところが見当たらない。だけど逆に言うといいところも見当たらない。そしてこれといった武器がない。相手は倒される心配なく突っ込める。何の怖さもなしにね。
Hearing this must have been a shock for him, but Kimura doesn't give up. He continues to train with Miyata, enduring a never-ending onslaught of jabs until he finally manages to slip past them all and get right into Miyata's face, only to realize he has nothing to use when he gets that close. With the fight so close, it's almost impossible to develop a new punch, but to also properly implement it into his style seems like an even more impossible task. But Kimura doesn't give up that easily. He's ready to fight this fight to the bitter end and do whatever he can to prepare for it.
If パンチが完成していたとしたら、こうして見下ろしてるのは俺じゃなかった。そして間違いなくマシバも。
The time has come for Kimura to take his shot, to challenge the champion. If he wins, all his hard work will pay off. If he loses, he will retire from boxing. There's so much riding on this fight, and I think it's one of the best fights in the whole series as of now. If you're thinking about getting into the series, be it the manga or the anime, I highly recommend watching this OVA. It's all on YouTube, and this is Hajime no Ippo at its peak. Seeing Kimura get treated like a sandbag for the first round is hard to watch, but the next line he says goes even harder.
3分か。よく粘ったじゃねえか。3分だと。たったの3分なんぞへでもねえよ。なんたってこちとら5年も粘ってきたんだ。
He endures this beating for 7 straight rounds, but he finally learns Mashiba's punches. After making his way in, he starts a constant barrage of body blows. All of this was done to set up his new weapon, the Dragonfish Blow. This really is the series at its peak, seeing characters we like struggle and train their hearts and souls out, giving it everything they've got, and then getting some of the coolest fights along with that. Legitimately, everything about this fight is awesome. But the fight isn't over yet. Mashiba refuses to stay down even after taking a second Dragonfish Blow. Mashiba manages to land a punch that nearly took Kimura out for good, but Kimura's spirit brought him back up. Everything he's been through will be worth it if he can just keep fighting. The pain of losing, the constant torment he and Aoki endure from Takamura, and the hours upon hours he spent training. It will all be worth it when he lands this final punch. Kimura's loss is one of the most heartbreaking moments in the series. Seeing him train so hard and build himself up from nothing is amazing. But to see him lose by such a slim margin hurt so much. He was just 3 centimeters away from being a champion, but what's done is done. He can't change the outcome of the match now. Thankfully, he decided not to retire and he'll keep on boxing, but the dream of being a champion seems so far away. It's almost as if that dream wasn't meant to be. But maybe Aoki could achieve that goal for both of them. Aoki eventually gets his chance to fight the Japanese lightweight champion Imae Katsura.
僕は彼をボクサーとして認めていない。カエルパンチ。そんなふざけたものを出した瞬間踏み潰してくれる。確かに俺は勝ったり負けたりのボクサーだ。だがその経験は全て肥やしになってる。タイトルマッチは俺の経験全てをぶつけさせてもらう。
And Imae is constantly looking down on Aoki, going so far as to say the fight will be a one-sided match. Aoki relies on unorthodox punches to throw off his opponents, but Imae has been training for each punch he could possibly throw. He's dedicated everything he has to boxing and won the belt through hard work. But Aoki works just as hard, and he's been training with Takamura and Ippo this whole time. He can take the belt. The fight itself starts off with Imae landing some quick left jabs and a right hook, textbook boxing, but Aoki retaliates with his best punch, the frog punch. A full body uppercut that he's used to land 6 KOs up until now. Imae barely dodges it, and when Aoki uses it again, he countered it perfectly. Aoki gets up, but he's extremely hurt. He can barely stay standing, and Imae lands into him for 3 straight rounds, only to realize that Aoki is perfectly fine.
なんだその軽い足取りは。今さっきまでフラフラだったじゃないか。立っているのがやっとだったじゃないか。
He's been going full throttle for 3 whole rounds. All the while, Aoki has been catching his breath, turtling up, and getting ready to draw the fight into the later rounds. Aoki also developed a new weapon for this fight, and he unleashes it in its full might in round 6. Aoki has been training hard for this fight, learning from his wins, losses, and small interactions in his day-to-day life. Something as simple as turning his head could lead to him being a champion. But Imae is a champion for a reason. He took a second frog punch and stayed up. He didn't fall for the look away when Aoki used it for the 3rd time, and then he proceeded to take the fight all the way to the last round. The last few rounds were sloppy. Neither of them could land a finishing blow, but they both fought on and came to respect one another. When the judges finished their decisions, it came down to the wire.
Judge Uchida, 95対94. Imae, 95対94. Aoki, 94対94ドロー。以上、三者採用の判定により日本ライト級タイトルマッチの結果はドローです。
So because champion Imae didn't lose, Aoki was unable to win and become the champion. Kimura's loss was hard to watch, but Aoki didn't even get to lose. What hurts more, having a definitive loss or not even really losing? To come equally close to winning as to losing at the same time. At that point, you have to ask, what's the point in putting in the hard work? When I was in high school, I always passed by a motivational poster as I was walking to the band hall. It said hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. It's a good message, but neglects this question. What happens when talent does work hard? When someone is talented and dedicates their time and effort into what they're talented at, well, that's when history itself will be made. Ippo has a fight that touches on this exact question. Takamura eventually gets his shot at a world title match with Brian Hawk. Brian doesn't care about training. He spends most of his time smashing women or smashing his fists into his opponents. But he had an innate talent to hurt people. So he went on to hurt and destroy many different men to achieve his title as the junior middleweight champion of the world. So it seemed impossible for Takamura to win, or that would be the case if Takamura wasn't just as talented as Brian is. But unlike Brian, Takamura put in the hard work. He trained hard for years, endured hellish weight management, got pushed the furthest he's ever been pushed in this fight. And he won. He won because he had the talent for boxing and put in the hard work to learn it, to master it. Hajime no Ippo brings up hard work and talent all the time. Even Imae was said to be someone with no talent, but he worked twice as hard as anyone else to become a champion. But in the end, he lost his next fight along with the title of champion. When people put in hours upon hours of effort and love into something that they do, but they don't get any results for their effort, what's even the point in trying? Isn't it all worthless in the end? You can put as much time and effort into something you're passionate about, but someone who's more talented or luckier than you can surpass you in no time. It's all pointless. You'll never be the best, so why bother even trying? I've been told that my videos deserve more views, but I don't see it that way. If I deserved more views, I'd have them already. People would be watching them. The past 4 videos I've made have had different amounts of effort put into them. A video I made of me just reading an article talking about Twitch drama has the same amount of views as a 48-minute Nuzlocke video that I put so many hours of hard work into. It sucks. Why should I put so much time and effort into this hobby, this YouTube channel? If I deserve more views based on the effort I put in, well, there are hundreds of other channels bigger and smaller than mine that deserve far more than I would ever deserve. Hard work by itself isn't enough. You have to have the right amount of luck. You have to put in the right amount of work in the right places, and sometimes you have to be born talented enough to be good at whatever you want to do. And even beyond that, sometimes you can have all of that go your way, but it still doesn't work out in the end. So why bother even trying in the first place? The reason I started this video talking about boxers and fighting games is because I really love fighting games. The neutral, the combos, the cool characters, and the feelings I get when I play them aren't matched by anything I've experienced in life so far, and that includes sex. You might think that this is corny or autistic, but playing fighting games is my form of boxing. Whenever I sit down to play, be it in person or at home, I'm fighting against other people, and I'll either win or lose. I don't compete in a physical manner like actual boxers, but I want to compete in these games and prove to the people I'm playing against and to myself that I'm good at the games I play. With all that being said, I'm no champion. I don't do well at my locals, I still haven't hit Master Rank in Street Fighter 6, and I still struggle with hitting jumping light attacks to snipe opponents' air super dashes in Dragon Ball FighterZ. I've always wanted to go to a super major tournament like Combo Breaker or EVO, but I've never been able to do it because of money. But if I did go, I'd just lose. I'd have to play against people who put in far more time and effort into these games, and on top of that, they're far more talented than I am. If I did go, wouldn't it be pointless to spend that much time and money when I already know the outcomes? Although I didn't go, over 7,000 people registered to play in the Street Fighter 6 tournament in EVO of 2023, and hundreds more played in the other games. Every single match that was played was unique in their own ways. The characters, the combos, the events that led up to the match were all unique experiences to each individual person. Everyone put in some amount of hard work, so how could I really believe that all of their time and effort is pointless in the end? Yeah, there could only be one overall winner, but if we look at life as just who wins and loses, well then we forget to look at the individual who put in that time and effort to try in the first place. Although I'm not an EVO champion, I still want to play fighting games. It's worth losing dozens of matches in a row if I can learn something new to be better. I recently learned the importance of light normals in Street Fighter 6. I normally used to do a drive rush crouching light kick to run in, and I relied on doing a crouching light punch that I would cancel into my light tatsu. If this string connected, it could lead to a good amount of damage, but it was unsafe. If I kept doing this YOLO sequence, my opponent would eventually block it and punish me pretty hard. So I started thinking about my normals, and the link between Kin's crouching light punch and his standing light kick finally showed its strength. I can use it to hit confirm easier and take less risks. Although the combo I would get wouldn't deal as much damage, it's worth doing it because the risks are lower. And on top of that, I can add different levels of pressure with my light normals. The act of learning something new is worth putting the effort into regardless of whether or not I win. I may not have reached the legend rank in Street Fighter 6 yet, but I'm happy to help my local FGC scene by bringing my setup. I love unplugging my setup and bringing it to the place. I'm able to contribute to my scene and help the people around me, so the hours I put into these games have been worth it for that alone. Even though I've lost most of my local tournaments, it's still fun to go to them. I've made many good friends over the past few years. There was something special about driving a few hours away, playing some good games, and then crashing at a friend's house for that evening. Even when I lose at some tournaments, I can still pull off some cool combos and make the venue pop off. There was one game of Dragon Ball FighterZ that I remember playing, and my opponent was using Android 18. She's able to call Android 17, and if you spin some meter, he will stand around doing nothing. But if you tag in a character or use an assist, he will teleport to that character and hit them with a giant beam. I had Jiren out, and Jiren actually has a few counters in his arsenal. One of his counters is called Try Something. If the opponent uses anything besides a super or a grab, he will teleport in and hit them. So in the moment, my opponent used the meter burn Android 17, and I realized I could intentionally call an assist, force 17 to teleport to me, and then use my counter, and then I killed Android 18. When I did this, the venue was in an uproar. Admittedly, I did lose the set overall 3-2, but I'll remember that moment for years to come. As the saying goes, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Although Aoki and Kimura didn't become champions, boxing has improved their lives for the better. Before they joined the Komagawa gym, they were high school dropouts. They were thugs that got into pointless fights for no other reason than their opponents went to another school. Aoki saw another student from a rival school and smashed his face into an arcade machine he was sitting at. It turns out the student was Takamura, and he proceeded to destroy Aoki. Kimura wasn't spared either. He was ambushed outside of his parents' flower shop and they trashed the store. They're both left bloodied and bruised, and Aoki was also left in a neck brace. And to add insult to injury, the girl Aoki liked was caught making out with another guy. For lack of a better word,
your life is nothing. You serve zero purpose.
They had no future, relationships, or goal to look forward to, nothing to strive for. But that all changed when they ran into Takamura again.
These guys need to be taught a lesson. Nothing they ever do gets completed. They don't even consider focusing on one thing. They have no goals, they're indecisive. They need someone to take them on and beat the crap out of them.
He kicked their asses, but he left them with a goal to strive for. Revenge.
Just one punch is all I want. I just want to land one punch to that bastard's ugly face.
In order to achieve this goal, they joined the boxing gym. They endured hours of rigorous training, and before they realized it, they started changing as people.
世間様にも迷惑をかけて知らぬ間に高校も辞めてしまい手がつけられなかった。ところがある日達也の暴力がピタッと止まって手のつけられなかったあの拳は今一つの道で日本一にまで挑んでいる。息子の拳は立派になった。
They no longer attacked random people, they stopped smoking, and they started taking boxing a bit more seriously. They kept challenging Takamura and he kept destroying them, but eventually he started sweating. It took effort to destroy them now. Aoki and Kimura were slowly getting better, and all of their efforts were worth it because Kimura did eventually scratch Takamura.
I got him! I finally made contact! You see that?
Step in harder and you'll pulverize him.
Don't make such a big deal about a tiny graze. You're too happy about it. Shut up! To us, this is a huge deal, all right?
Before they knew it, they achieved their goal, and then they replaced it with a new one, to be a professional boxer. Kimura's debut match started off poorly, but he got his head in the game and started dodging all of his opponent's attacks rather than just running away. He's been training with Takamura this whole time, working himself to the bone, and then he wins. Aoki was inspired by Kimura's win, and he got a KO victory too. They used to fight and got scolded for it, but now they fight and receive applause. It sucks that they didn't become champions, but they changed for the better by putting in the hard work into boxing. Even if they lacked the talent for boxing at a world level, it was still worth getting into. That can lead into another point. How do you know what you're talented at if you aren't trying new things? The whole story of Hajime no Ippo began with Ippo trying to hit the sandbag, and he realized that working on a fishing boat for many years actually helped build up his body to be a good boxer. He might not inherently be talented when it comes to boxing, but he's got talents in other areas. like being able to train his heart and soul out every day. This is something that Aoki and Kimura actually point out, and they've even admitted that they would benefit from trying to train more, but they just don't. Aoki and Kimura might be mediocre boxers, but it turns out they're talented at something else: baseball. The gang were asked to play a round of baseball against some of Aoki and Kimura's past teammates, and turns out they're amazing at the sport. Aoki has a fantastic throwing arm, and Kimura effortlessly hits a home run. If they're this good after not playing for all these years, why did they quit in the first place? Well, they found the sport to be too easy. They'd rather be mediocre pro boxers than talented professional baseball players because they love boxing that much. They could easily go back to baseball with how well they have played in this short arc, but they don't, and I love that. Seeing them stay with boxing even after how hard they have lost is amazing. Also, remember how Aoki works at that ramen shop? Well, it turns out that he's actually really good at cooking. He has talents outside of boxing that he can put hard work into when he does retire from boxing.
It just so happens that my dream is to make good money with boxing and open my own restaurant.
One of the reasons I love Hajime no Ippo so much is all the ways the series has used ideas like hard work and talent to its full strength. I love Dragon Ball a lot, and if there's one line that sums up the series, it's this:
Maybe even a lower class outcast can surpass an elite if he puts his mind to it.
It's a good message, but in the end, Goku was wrong. He lost the fight against Vegeta and even admitted to it. Hajime no Ippo isn't afraid to tackle the idea that hard work isn't enough, but it explains why hard work is important with one of the coolest lines I have ever read. I relate to Aoki and Kimura's struggles with boxing a lot. They have dedicated over 6 years to this profession, and no matter how low they fall, they can still say they love boxing. Even when I'm on a losing streak, or have a rage-induced rant on stream, I still want to play games like Street Fighter 6 and Dragon Ball FighterZ. I'll say how much the games piss me off, but I'll still go back to training mode, or hop on ranked the next day. Competing is hard. We'll all lose at some point, but losing doesn't have to be viewed as a bad thing. Allow me to read a passage from Daigo the Beast Umehara's autobiography, The Will to Keep Winning. Missteps are neither bad, nor are they wasted effort. Whether the right step or not, climbing produces a result. Even missteps are gained experience, which will make the climb a bit easier moving forward. Just as Aoki and Kimura will keep working hard every day even after they fail, I will too. Someday they will have their last match in the ring, and I will play my last sets of Street Fighter 6 or DBFZ. Someday I'll upload my last YouTube video. Whether it's this video, tomorrow's stream, or a video that'll be made 5 years from now, it will end someday. Even if my hard work doesn't result in a 1,000,000 subscriber channel, it was worth putting the effort into. Even if this individual video doesn't get more than 500 views, it was still worth making it. I had a lot of fun rereading the series, and it actually gave me an excuse to watch some episodes from the anime. The experiences I've gained will stay with me for the rest of my life, and it's thanks to Aoki and Kimura that I've been able to understand that the pain and regret of losing isn't something unique to me alone. It's something we will all experience, but the people who keep pushing and working hard through that pain will inevitably become better. Thank you for watching.